tonight with regard to the Scooter's Coffee Shop or the other one, which I think is a massage place. If you can fill out the brown colored sheet just with your name and address. There's 5 choices of what you can do. You can, can be questions, it can be registering against and speaking against, registering in favor, registering and speaking against. The way those public hearings work is when we get to that item, she'll bring up the site plan, she'll bring up what we've talked about. If you guys have questions, we're here to answer, okay? So, all right.
You are in behind.
I moved the wrong one.
Okay. This is a common. All right, everybody ready? Are you all set? Yep, we're recording. This is a common council meeting to be held Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The meeting is called to order at 7:02. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Juzwicki is excused. Alderperson Bailey is excused. Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Alderperson Akers.
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Okay, item B is opening prayer. We have Pastor Vic here this evening.
Good evening. Amen. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this great city. I pray that you be with us as we proceed this evening. Be with our emergency responders, our police, our fire, and other EMS responders in our community. Keep them safe as they serve us, and be with our conversations tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. If you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Item D, I'd entertain a motion to approve the January 2nd Common Council minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Alderperson Akers, second by Kastner, was it?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item E, approval of the February 6th, 2024 Common Council minutes. Move to approve that too.
Motion to approve.
By Alderperson Akers, or second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under Mayor's report this evening, there's a few things that have happened, obviously, recently involving guns, and this isn't a statement on guns. 2 police officers and a firefighter were recently killed responding to a domestic situation out of state. Our hearts and prayers, and we keep saying this thoughts and prayers thing over and over again, right? But our thoughts and prayers go out to them. We have police officers and firefighters and DPW workers. We have all sorts of people that are putting their lives in harm's way every day. I get to see those police reports every day. I think sometimes people would be shocked to learn the kinds of things that they have to be in their day-to-day lives. They have to be sociologists, they have to be criminologists, they have to be criminal lawyers sometimes. They have to be all sorts of things. They have to be marksmen, they have to be social workers, they have to be mediators, they have to be negotiators, they have to be athletic to chase people, they have to sometimes be able to, and this sounds bad, take a hit. There's a lot of things that they go through every single day. And personally, when I see that there's a couple of firefighters or a firefighter and a couple of police officers that are killed doing their duty, I know all of our police officers. Some of them seem very young to me now as I get older. And I know our firefighters, and if anything happened to them, I would be devastated. A couple of years ago, something did happen to one of them, which is something that I never want to go through again. So my sincere prayers and thoughts and best wishes and hope for whatever it is goes out to that community that lost 3 of their own, because that's not good. Under Mayor's report too, there's another item later with regard to the turf and an activity in June. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank the bubbling of support that once you guys opened the doors with the funding for the park. I had one of my neighbors today saying, what do you mean you're spending $2 million on a skateboard park? I want to just be clear, this isn't coming from your tax dollars. When you write the check to the city of Greenfield, this is coming from things like park fees, billboard revenue, a cell tower that we inherited when we purchased the site of the turf for $1. So those are the kinds of funding sources that we're using to do this. We're being as creative as we possibly can. And to Frank, my neighbor, who was astounded that, well, why don't you go hire 20 more police officers with that money? He didn't say that, but I knew that's what he was thinking. The reality is that different funding sources have to go to different things, either by contract or by ordinance or by resolution. I want to thank Jeff Katz over there, who has been instrumental over the last 12 years before we could get this thing going. It's been a slog to try to get a 2-acre iconic piece of skateboard history that Tony Hawk, if you go online and type in Tony Hawk, the Turf Skateboard Park, in 2012, he was asked about it on a news report, and he said it's iconic and people will come. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. So I know I have a lot of other stuff to talk about, but I think these folks want to get going. Are there any aldermanic reports this evening?
We have the Park and Rec banquet.
The Park and Rec banquet is this Friday,
at 6.
right? I'm not sure if tickets are still available. They probably, maybe, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think because they have to cater it, they probably are closed now.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I'm sure if anyone wants to come, we'd fit them in.
I think we could probably fit them in, get the $7 out of them or something. I don't know what it is, but.
It's inflation. It's doubled. It's 14.
So we've been doing this for a very long time. The Park and Rec banquet, I should probably talk about that a little bit, is this Friday. This is when our Park and Rec department has over 24,000 registrations for things to do during the year, which is amazing when you think about it. Most of those things too are not paid for with taxpayer dollars. Those are from the programming fees that we use in a special revenue fund to do those kinds of things. This event is for those people, those employees, and those sometimes volunteers, sometimes very meagerly paid employees that make sure that we have a good recreation program. It's an important event, and I'd encourage you to go to next year and be a silver or gold sponsor to it. So that would be great. I think there's an attorney out there. Maybe he can do it. You got any money? But he's shaking yes. So get over there. Any other aldermanic reports right now? Announcements. I don't have any at this. Do you guys have anything? Citizen commentary. There's a.
Do you have one right here?
So I see. Stanley Painter? Yeah. Did you fill out one of the brown sheets? Yes. Okay, so you're here for that, right, the public hearing? Or do you have any other comments that you have about how poorly the city is run and how we didn't do something, or?
Well, I mean, I've been around here my whole life and I'm still here, so.
That's a good thing. I'm glad you're still here. Me too. So, so under public hearings, the first one is J1. If you're here to speak about the coffee shop, there are some tan-colored sheets up here. I encourage you to register for that. You can register to speak for or against, or you can just register your opposition or your support, or you can just ask questions. She's going to go through a bit of a presentation as to what it's all about. Before we start that presentation, we've gone through the Planning Commission with this, which is a recommending body. We've gone through traffic analysis. We've gone through what Loomis is going to look like. Understand the corner, but we'll go through it, okay? And we have our, okay. Want to go?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing for a special use permit for a new restaurant. I'll call it a restaurant, limited service coffee shop. They're proposing to demolish the existing Crossroads Diner, construct a 678 square foot coffee kiosk called Scooters Coffee. The site is Zone C2, which does require a special use permit in the public hearing this evening. Their hours of operation would be 6 to 8 every day. There would be no public access to the kiosk building, so it's not where you go in to order coffee. It's drive-through only. You can't go in and use the bathrooms. Therefore, there's one bathroom for employees only. So it's simply just a drive-through, really small building, 678 square feet. So you can see the site plan north is up, a little bit angled given Loomis Road's proximity, but the proposed kiosk building of 678 square feet is here along Loomis, kind of close to Loomis Road. There is an existing curb cut over here, right here, that will be closed. The state of Wisconsin is closing the curb cut along Loomis Road, so there will be one entry to and out of the site, which is along 43rd Street. So you'll enter from either the east or from the west. You will make an immediate right-hand turn, and you can see that they have shown a queuing for 12 vehicles, enough space for 12 vehicles before they even get to the window to pick up their coffee. And then there's plenty of room for vehicles to be queued as they're exiting the site as well. The employees, there's 7 parking spaces within, and 7 are required per code. There is a setback waiver that was requested. The Plan Commission recommended approval for the front yard setback. And then there is an existing chain link fence. We have required a new 6-foot fence, which will provide better shielding from vehicle lights entering crossing the property line to the residential home just to the west. And then we're also asking that wood fence just taper slowly as it gets closer to 43rd Street, just to keep the vision open as vehicles exit the site and look right for oncoming traffic. They have submitted a substantial landscaping plan. You see that the site is going to be substantially greener than it is today. And then regarding traffic patterns that are taking place on Loomis Road, this is not part of the project. It's part of the state's improvements to Loomis Road. What they're going to do is they're going to construct this traffic island highlighted in yellow here. So if you are going, I'll call it northbound on Loomis Road, you will not be able to turn left onto, you will be able to turn left on 43rd Street. What it's going to prevent is if you're going eastbound on 43rd Street, you will no longer be able to turn left or northbound on Loomis. This really should help the traffic situation here. 43rd Street really backs up in the morning, and this obviously is going to be a busy morning use with the coffee. So that improvement from the state of Wisconsin will no longer allow you to turn left. Everyone will be forced to turn right, which the state intends to help with the queuing of traffic there. Also, if you are exiting this driveway here, you will not be able to turn left or southbound onto Loomis. You will be forced to go right. So Scooters is it's a growing chain. There's several in the southeastern Wisconsin area. This is kind of what the building generally looks like. They'll have some lighting, uplighting, or underlighting, I should say, along the roof line, and then they'll have 3 light poles within the site identified by the purple circles, and then some building wall lighting as well underneath the awnings. We do have this photometric plan which shows virtually no spillage of the light over the property line, which is always important to the city when reviewing a photometric plan that for a property that is next to residential. So this is the building design. It's got brick veneer and hardy plank siding and fabric awnings, 2 wall signs. And the Plan Commission recommended approval at its January 9th meeting, and to date, we've received no letters of support or objection for this particular project.
Just one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I don't think, in the public hearing too. So we understand the traffic concerns at 43rd Street, the median left-hand turn only that you saw back there is pretty much required by the Wisconsin DOT. As part of the whole area, we understand that when there's a Cubs game, right, maybe not just a Cubs game or a Brewers game even, that folks get off from 894, they cut to 43rd Street, they get stuck at a stop sign at 43rd and Cold Spring, and the cars back up all the way to Loomis. And we also understand that in all directions that happens. After the game, it backs up north by the cemetery there. We have plans to put 43rd Street is getting, is it this year that have they decided, the state this year, to reconstruct 43rd?
This, what's shown here is going to be
Not this, but the area north of this on 43rd Street.
2025.
In 2025, we've received pretty significant grant funding, over $1 million, to redo 43rd Street north of Cold Spring, I think it is.
Yes.
In that same timeline, we've also authorized that a traffic signal is going to be put in at 43rd and Cold Spring, which should alleviate and regulate the traffic through there a little bit better. It's a complicated endeavor. Whenever a traffic signal goes in, I'll just give you an example. Put one in by Sendix over here on 78th or something in Layton. That affected, I think, either 13 or 18 other traffic signals around. So it's not a small endeavor to put a traffic signal in. It's not as simple as you think it is. But we're working towards getting a traffic signal on 43rd and Cold Spring as well to alleviate those backups. And I understand one of our former employees lives in that neighborhood, probably very close to you, on the other side of 43rd Street, and it's a challenge just getting out of their driveway, right? So we've been trying to work through that, and I think that's important to the public hearing because it impacts the traffic sort of along 43rd Street. And what about the people going to the Brewer games that want to get a coffee before they get there, and what's all of that going to do, right? So, okay. So are there folks registered to speak for, against, or informational purposes? I'm looking at 2 people that have registered. Is anybody else registered? You don't know yet? Or I need those sheets because I'm going to call you up to... So should I call Stanley first? Okay. So Stanley Painter, is that right?
Yes.
4408 South 43rd Street is speaking for information only. Is that on?
I turned it on.
So, I guess you did answer a lot of questions that I had, but I don't think you guys are underestimating the traffic problem. So all of the traffic, there's a few concerns that I have that I feel I'm not sure are being addressed. So all of the traffic is gonna come in and out next to the house next door, right? It looks to me like the driveway, you have 2,
There's one drive, correct.
and it's all within, how many feet of the property line is that driveway?
I can dig around and look while we're talking.
So, I'm in construction, I got an idea what they're spending to build this, it's not gonna be for 50 cups of coffee a day. How many cars do they anticipate are gonna be coming in and out of that driveway?
I don't know, I don't know if they provided that with their information.
Because it seems like
So the-
43rd is a residential street, right?
This is a commercial property. I mean, the problem is that the stadium interchange at one point across the street was supposed to alleviate all of the traffic that basically went down 43rd Street
Yeah.
historically. And when Jackson Park and all that stuff happened way back in the 60s
Back
or
when.
70s or whenever that was,
They took that out,
the highway never went in.
yeah.
So 43rd Street has become, in many ways, that way to get to the center of the big circle of the interstate system.
I know, yeah, it's pretty busy.
So while it's true that it predominantly has residential properties along its entire width, or parks, or cemeteries,
Yeah.
it is a quarter section street that's used substantially for traffic.
Right.
Not much different than Layton or Edgerton or Cold Spring or any of those other streets.
Well, it's quite different than Layton. Layton's got it more
Now it
commercial.
is. Yeah, no, Layton it's a trucking route too, so it takes the overflow from the 894. But Cold Spring is probably similar. I mean, people either, when 894 is closed down, they'll take Cold Spring or they'll take Layton, right? So
Yeah.
you can usually tell, so.
Well, that's a pretty big concern,
Yeah, so
for us, because that's gonna,
So there's a couple things that so whenever we do anything within so many feet of a state or federal highway, there's a lot of input by them with regard to safety at intersections. 43rd and Loomis has always been a dangerous intersection.
Yeah, I agree with
Always
that.
dangerous. I mean,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
Left
turns are horrible.
impossible,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah,
can't see, and
impossible,
people
yeah.
are blasting down the hill, and
Oh, yeah.
so they closed the in and off of Loomis, the state required, and they only allowed one access point, I think, to this property. So I think she said that was east and west, but to the left is north, and to the, I think, north and south, right?
Well, if you're facing
It's a-
it on 43rd, left would
If I'm,
be
yeah,
north,
right.
which would
So
be
the
right
re-
along Don's
So
driveway.
the reason that that's there is that because the entrance had to be so far from the intersection of 43rd and Loomis, you didn't want people slamming on the brake, making a left-hand turn or.
100% agree with that, yeah.
Yeah,
The
so.
problem is that's gonna, I mean, that's where you have to take into consideration whether you can have a business like that there. Not so much as, well, we have to do it because the highway's there and but, maybe this isn't, like the restaurant that's there now really isn't a problem because the traffic doesn't impact us. But this is only drive-through. So that means that every car that comes out of there, 90% of them are gonna turn left out of there and go down 43rd Street.
So what we actually expect is that most people drink coffee in the morning.
Right.
So on the way to work and on the way to the freeway, once the bridge is back, which is a huge inconvenience, trust me, I do get phone calls about that periodically. What we expect is most people will be turning left into there, will be driving through, and then will be turning left out. Most people on their way home from work won't be stopping to get a coffee. I kind of parked out at the Scooters, which just opened on Miller Parkway. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys saw that one.
Yeah, I've been paying attention lately to to see, yeah.
Me too. And then there's another one that's being built on Forest Home. I can't remember, it's 68th, 60th.
I didn't know that, yeah.
So if you look over there, it's in Milwaukee. But I've been watching the scooters on Miller Parkway. I'm not sure how active they are. I suspect that this one will be active in the morning between 7 and 8:39.
So that's what I think, but the thing is, that's where I said, I think you guys are underestimating the traffic. Have you ever sat outside of our house between 7 and 8, 9?
So I don't want to say anything, but I sat in that George Webb when I was in high school at 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. And so,
Thought you recognized the
not
mark,
that I was just getting a
Burger.
Super George, I don't know what I was doing, but,
So my point is,
So
really,
there's always these balance, so from our perspective, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, I understand that cars coming in and out is a thing, right? But when I balance sort of a restaurant that can be open 24 hours a day,
yeah.
and I think about police calls sometimes that
Yeah,
two
they
or
didn't
three-
love that either, yeah. Rare, but it happened, yeah.
Recently, it's been rare. When it was at George Webb, it was much more prevalent, because I might have been there when there were some, and if it was just, it might have been just coincidence that I was there, but I don't know. That was in 1982, so I don't know. But that's kind of the balance, right?
So my point is, at 7:30 in the morning, traffic backs up past my driveway to turn left to get onto the freeway. Because I pull out of there every morning. I can tell you traffic, often to where my driveway is at 4408. So that pretty much eliminates the idea that they're going to go left out of there and get onto the freeway. Because they're not going to be able to pull out. There's going to be a line of cars
They
that
may
get
have
into.
to go to Cold Spring and do it that way.
That's,
So-
we both
So
agree.
what the goal is with traffic signals, remember on 70th and Layton before Sendex stoplights went in?
Yeah.
If you were trying to get out of anywhere, like the Cub that was there, or what was it, Rainbow, you couldn't get out because there was never a traffic break.
Yeah.
Or if you're sitting in Cops right now trying to leave, and you get all the freeway traffic that's flowing through and taking a right to go to Southridge, you sit there for a while.
Right.
But what happens is when you put traffic signals in, they create gaps in traffic, and that's typically when you can leave. So the traffic signal will help, although it's probably 2025, because we're trying to coordinate with the DOT with that. By
Well-
putting conduit in, there's all sorts of stuff that we have to do with that. But the goal is that that would happen. The other thing that could happen is, this could be a 24-hour Denny's or something too, right? So, and that's not a joke.
I
and
don't,
it will have
I don't
that
think
driveway.
that, this isn't the worst idea in the world. It's just that I feel like, I recognize that the state isn't gonna allow a driveway on the Loomis. But where this driveway is now doesn't work for the neighborhood. That's the bottom line. I mean, obviously, not a lot of people care. We live right there, so we're the ones that are most impacted by it. But there's no question that like you even, right away, common sense tells you, they're gonna turn right and take Cold Spring up, and is that gonna be 100 cars?
I don't know how many cups of coffee that they sell per day.
Right, but shouldn't that
There's-
be taken into account?
Is somebody here from them today?
Doesn't look like it.
It just seems like that should be taken into account when planning this.
Okay.
Cause it's a residential, I mean, there's commercial, but we're almost all residential beyond that point. There's a weight limit for trucks, although we see semis quite often lately. So I think that should be taken into account, just the emissions, the noise next to Don's in the hospital, his wife's here. The noise next to them, I don't know if you ever found out how close is it going to Don's driveway?
Yeah, it's a 10-foot buffer with the 6-foot wood fence and landscaping in between.
So approximately 20 to 30 feet from their driveway is going to be the in and out of this. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be major. You guys, that's going to be extremely troublesome to their property value.
I can't read what kind of plantings are they putting in that 10 feet? I can't see that small. It looks pretty dense, that's all I know.
Well, their driveway is just on the other side of the fence.
I'm just looking at the amount of trees that are being planted there to try and help
Yeah.
buffer it. Obviously, they're trying to do something. We wouldn't.
I mean, that's going to be pretty impactful on us three for sure. And
Can I ask you a question? How many people do you think live within 5 miles of 43rd and Loomis?
well, within 5 miles, well, they say there's 7,000 some cars right on 43rd,
Right.
17 on.
No, so the reason I'm saying that is that there are about, I think it's 300 from 84th and Layton, there's 270,000 people that live within 5 miles of 84th and Layton. And as you go further east, the density increases. So I'm guessing that within 5 miles of this coffee shop, there are about 300,000 people.
Oh yeah, that's why they want to build a coffee shop.
That's why people want to have a bar there, and that's why people want to have a auto repair business there, and that's why people want to have a gas station on the corner there. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
density.
Oh yeah. This isn't the worst idea.
So,
it's just that
I'm
the traffic control is going to be hard for you guys to. Nobody's taking that into serious consideration, and
No.
for us, it's going to be serious.
I suspect that other than in the morning between 7 and 9, and I'm not suggesting anything because we lived through Starbucks on 43rd and Layton with people
We're
with
still
people
living with it.
stacking down into Layton, which wasn't appropriate, and we told them that you needed more stacking, so that never
Yeah.
happened. So this site plan tries to take some of that into account by providing for more stacking than is probably even necessary. They said they needed room for about, I think it was 8 cars or 9 cars or something like that, because their products are made extremely quick. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a mess, but not crazy. But Starbucks, I'm hoping is going to be a lot busier than Scooters. But
Yeah, so I think, and I don't know the specifics, but when they opened the Starbucks on 43rd and Layton, I think in a public hearing, they told us that they expected about, I don't know if it was 14 or 19,000 a week in sales,
yeah,
and it's well
That's
in
like
excess.
3 cups of coffee, though.
That's well in excess. Well, those are $7 cups of coffee too. So, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I used to go there every day. Now it's like I saw the light that I just go to Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, which has gotten more expensive too. But it's multiple sales, right? It's multiple times of that at that location, and we've been trying to remedy that on 43rd Street.
Well,
That one, we sort of shot ourselves in the foot
Well,
because
that one, we predicted it was gonna be
busy.
bigger than they thought it was gonna be. Plus, the thing that does concern me too with this is, with Starbucks, you would think it's just the morning. It is not just the morning that Starbucks is stacking out on Layton. It's not.
Yeah, I do.
Well, but I think that the major impact will be morning. I think that's what,
Yeah.
we don't live on 43rd Street because we don't want to see I mean, it is what it is. I'm not complaining about the traffic. I'm complaining about the traffic that this is gonna create, between, like, we noticed an increase just from the apartment buildings, which everybody thought. We have now there are certain times of the week when traffic backs up to near, not my drive, but 2 doors down from Cold Spring.
Which is the problem with traffic signals not being at 43rd and Cold Spring.
Yeah, no, I
So
go
you-
along with
you-
that,
If
but
everybody is like, stop, looking, and there's some urgency, and I think Jeff would vouch for me on that we've got the funding for it. We need to coordinate it with the DOT because we have to coordinate it with the DOT. There's a grant that we received to redo 43rd Street north of Cold Spring to Howard, I think it is, right? Which is supposed to improve the lane, things are supposed to be an improvement, right?
Yep.
And we can't put the conduit in now because with the state contracts, it gets all mired or something.
Right.
And so the problems that you've had there, and you've had there probably for 20 or 30 or 40 years, which are getting worse, aren't going to get better by putting a coffee shop in, there's no question. Are they going to get sizably worse? I don't know. But I think when the traffic signals go in, that will create the gaps in traffic, as will the left turn stuff that's
That'll be
happening on
huge.
Loomis,
That'll be huge.
which will,
Not coming from Loomis going down 43rd, there's no stopping them from that.
there is no stopping there from that, but there are traffic signals on Loomis at the off-ramp that do, and most of the traffic comes from what I understand, most of the traffic comes from 894 on those busy days. So when they're stopped on 894, so this is the thing that we can't do, is we can't solve the fact that there's like 250,000 people that live around here. We,
When I'm coming out my driveway, I mean, it might be clear,
well, that's the thing. It's not that we want to solve that problem.
Right.
We just don't want to direct them right in front of our driveway from 7 to 9 o'clock every morning. That's something that you guys can do something about. Not, I live in Greenfield, most of my life. I'm not complaining about the traffic or the amount of people. Most of the people in we have a good community, a nice community. I know a lot of people. The thing of it is, I just don't want them all coming past my driveway at between 7 and 9 in the morning.
would it help if that driveway was further to the east somewhat? And
Well,
maybe it
I
can't be,
think-
I don't know.
I think for Don and Clarisse, that would be somewhat of, for the noise and the emissions, that would at least be somewhat of a buffer, because they're so close to, Don, he's terminal, but Clarisse will be there.
So you have to, did you fill out one of those sheets? If you just tell, okay, I just want to are you,
Clarice Kish, and I am the person adjacent to this property.
you have to speak in the microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this, but okay, you have an entrance off of Loomis going into the Starbucks. I don't understand this state thing saying that they want to put the curb back there on Loomis where the cafe is right now, or
I can ask our city engineer
why do they have an entrance from Loomis? But we won't, they won't over there. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I just, in this fence you're talking about, okay, it's a wood fence. It starts off at 6 foot, and then it kind of tapers down. Is that what you're saying? It tapers down to what?
So the taper down would just be real close to that utility pole. It would be 6 feet almost. That's something,
Most of the fence will.
What?
So do you see where can
Yeah.
you see it up there?
about 4 feet,
So you're going from 6 foot to 4 feet is what you're saying?
and probably only if,
4 feet right now.
This fence,
Cyclone.
which is 4 feet, that people
Yes.
can see through, right? 'Cause
Yes.
this fence would be a wood fence that's 6 feet. It would be 6 feet all the way through. At this point, because of your driveway,
Yes.
if you have a 6-foot fence there, people may not see you backing out of your driveway. There's a sightline triangle there, right? They don't care. No, we do care. That's why we're doing this. So we probably. Huh? What?
The drivers don't care.
No, so, but the point is that if you have a 6-foot fence here, nobody, whether it's you or the drivers, can see you. So what the point is to try to make the fence lower
But there's
at
going
that
to be
point.
so much in and
Or you
out there.
can
There's
put
going to
it
be so
back
much
here
in and out
20
there that it's going to be
We could put the
ridiculous.
fence back 20 feet or something if that helped.
I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about just the in and out. I mean, you're going to be that close to our property and that's your only entrance and exit? Ha. No. No, I don't get it. What kind of fence are we talking about? Wood fence, okay, wood is wood, but I mean, there's different types of wood fence also. I don't know.
It's a board-on-board wood fence that you can't see through and it's 6 feet tall. It's,
I just don't, I just, really, for it to be that close to our property, there's got to be some kind of sound barrier, privacy, something there. I mean, I get the fence, okay, 6 feet, but it'd be nice if it was even taller than that with the in and out
want
of
it
the
8 feet?
traffic, the noise, the emissions.
how many cars, so I mean, I understand the concern with the emissions. Most cars don't emit like they did in the 70s with, that you don't even smell a car. I mean, that's all, right? Truthfully. The fence that's going there is better than the fence that's there now and will
Well,
provide
we
more.
try to have them, back in the day.
It does provide more privacy. We don't have, there's a requirement that a 6-foot fence go in there. It can go up to 8 feet, I think, if
Well,
we
that's what I
had
was
to.
looking at, hopefully an 8-foot fence, some kind of a sound barrier kind of a fence. I don't know.
So your garage is also there and your house is on the other side of it, so your garage, not trying to say anything, if your house was, you can probably get an 8-foot fence there if you wanted to have an 8-foot fence there that creates some sort of sound barrier.
I would think so, yes. I just,
And it probably doesn't need to go all the way to the right of way where it is now. It could be cut back to where one of those poles are, here or here, if you wanted it, as long as there isn't a sightline problem between the driveway and the street. We don't want a big honking fence that nobody can see anything. I guess that's the-
I've got granddaughters and they're active and I'm sorry, but in today's world, I don't want people, watching these girls, they're 12, 11, 8,
So right
9.
now they can
and
watch the girls.
I'm just
With a
like-
6-foot fence, they can't watch the girls. If it's an 8-foot fence, nobody can get over an 8-foot fence. So if you go to the Pick and Save, that's right over there. I don't know if you ever shopped there. We didn't design the parking lot, by the way. They did. They always blame us.
I'm not a big pick and save person, no.
I'm
so
not really
I-
either, but the western property line there originally had a 6-foot fence, and people would jump the fence, and so we
So 8 would be better.
so we made them put an 8-foot fence in.
Yes. All right.
As long, and if, where the location of that fence goes and to what distance it should be from the street, if you don't want it as far, as close to the street, we just need to make sure that there's vision for you in your driveway,
But I just,
so you can see what's coming.
it's
to the-
just
the
upsetting
greatest
to me
extent we
that they're
can.
not leaving that entrance open on Loomis. This is just too much traffic. You know what, sad thing is, they started on this bridge. Otherwise, I was gonna take a video of this traffic. I watch it every day. Every day. I don't care if there's a Brewer game going on or not. That traffic is horrible. It is horrible. It starts like in the morning, then you got 3:30 before, I think it's 3 o'clock they start backing up. You kidding me? It's horrible.
So there's nothing that the city at all can do to prevent traffic that goes up and down that street. There's nothing we can do about it. The only thing that we can try to do is to try to get money to improve the street, to make it safer, which we've done, which takes him, not that anybody cares and woe is us, right? It takes years to try to apply for, have engineered, have traffic studied, have all of this stuff, okay? So we finally got some money from Cold Spring North because we've recognized, one, that the street is falling apart, and two, that it's not very safe. So there are people that walk on 43rd Street all the time. We got
Yes,
sidewalks from Loomis, I
Yep.
think, to Cold Spring now. The sidewalks are gonna go north along the cemetery now. And we went through with one of the neighbors that lives there, who wasn't one of you guys, was it? I talked to somebody on the phone. So we planted all these trees in the cemetery expecting that, street trees, that the sidewalk's never gonna be there, and it turns out we plant them where the sidewalk's going, right? Which was another story. But we're trying to increase that safety with those sidewalks that should have been there for a long time, that people fought tooth and nail over, right? They do, people complain about them, I don't wanna shovel them, I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna do that. And then you watch people walk their dogs on it, and you know that you made the right decision. But most of the traffic at 43rd and Cold Spring, and Jeff, who's a professional engineer, you can tell me if I'm wrong, most of the traffic problems on 43rd Street will be much better regulated when there's traffic signals on 43rd and Cold Spring. They will be.
Can
No,
I
they
ask
will
a-
be,
Can I ask a
because
question on the
people will
streetlights?
back up, and then they'll all go. People will back up, then they'll all go.
Can I ask
Gaps
a-
will be
Can I ask
created.
a question about the stoplights? With the stoplights, is there an option that, because we haven't ordered these yet, of getting it so that when they're coming southbound, I guess it is on 43rd Street at Cold Spring, that we give them a left arrow to turn to go towards Cold Spring down to Loomis to try and encourage traffic to go that route? I mean, a lot of people won't because they know this is shorter. But if we give them the option of turning left, would that maybe direct some of that traffic that way?
The traffic signal will have left turn arrows for the direction, 4 directions.
Okay.
Part of what we wanted to do internally as a city is we wanted to close 43rd Street at Loomis and put a cul-de-sac so that it's a residential neighborhood.
That would be wonderful.
And then redirect traffic down Cold Spring to Loomis.
But 43rd Street has a sign north, south of Cold Spring.
So what you have to do, because we're in a public hearing, you have to come up here and you have to say who you are. I got her name, because she's got a sheet here, but I don't have your,
My ticket's right.
okay. So you have to,
No, I just wanted to say something, though. Those sidewalks, the cemetery, because back in the day when they did our road, that was on our dime. And the sidewalks were extra, and they were not going to put that cost on the cemetery. That's why those sidewalks didn't go in for that cemetery to begin with. And, getting back to George Webb's, when we bought that last lot there, and that lot that George Webb's was on was residential at that time, and we questioned that. And they turned around and made it commercial. 3 months later, this thing pops up, a 24-hour restaurant in a residential area.
which one are you talking about? Which lot are you?
Well, the one that was George Webb's to begin with. But we were there, we bought the last lot. That was an empty lot.
That was like in the 60s or 70s.
That's how long I've been there.
Right.
47.
I've been there 40, almost 50 years. I'm sorry, but we were there maybe 3 months. We had questioned that lot because it was residential, and questioned if anything was going to go in there before we even purchased that home. And they said, no, it's staying that way. Well, honest to God, turns into commercial. But then again, we had people in, politics did what they wanted to do, and they switched it to commercial, and then went up George Webb's, like instantly, like 3 months. They got rid of that lot and or got rid of our house, and were able to then continue with their agenda.
Just as mayor, and I will take responsibility for everything that happened in the last 19 years. Honest to God, I will take complete,
I know, but
I will
I'm just
take
giving you a little history of
responsibility
40
for every decision that's made in the last 19 years, but I can't take responsibility for something that happened under Mayor Havey or Mayor whoever it
Correct.
was back then.
I'm just giving you a little history, but I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I
right.
mean?
I
That's how
never
it
knew
was-
that, but-
That's how it was back then. And it was like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, of course it would have changed our mind had we known that that's, okay, now you changed it to commercial?
So things have changed a lot in the last 50 years.
So, you talk about, that should never been there. And now, okay, you can continue to put whatever you want there because it's commercial now.
So and we have zoning things that we have to get into, I think,
So I'm
probably
just,
at some
I don't know,
point.
I just,
But zoning, when the city doesn't, well, maybe the city arbitrarily at one point just said, hey, I know you, buddy, you can build something there. I don't know if that's the case. But we spent a serious amount, I was gonna say shitload of time, a serious amount of time going through comprehensive land use planning, going through zoning, trying to maximize the value too, right? Because I can only raise taxes if I raise value. That's the truth. I don't know if you know that, right? Even though your houses probably all had increases, that's because of a shift. The total amount of taxes that I receive is only $111,000 more than last year. And it cost me more, like 7 times more, just to pay health insurance and stuff. So we tried to maximize the value. We tried to limit exposure. We try to do everything in a reasonable way. It's incredibly difficult. The real noise, the real traffic, the real smells are the interstate system, right? We've been trying forever to get sound barriers, and we thought we had them, and the DOT would, that's a whole nother story.
I know the story.
So I'm sorry that 50 years ago that someone should have just put a house there instead, and that you bought your house because of it. And so I apologize on behalf of the city, but I'm trying to figure out something, so could have a 24-hour Denny's there, right? And they could put up the fence and they could do that. That's gonna be a lot more traffic, that's gonna be a lot more sound, that's gonna be a lot more people at bar time, even though nobody goes to bar time anymore, it seems. That's gonna be a lot more of that than a car.
Because the coffee shop is only drive-through, so it's 100% in and out. There's no
This
break.
is gonna be to our house.
Well,
I don't know
morning
what
and
he said.
afternoon.
I don't know how
Mostly
many
morning.
he said.
It is
But where the
10
restaurant
feet.
right now,
10
we don't have
feet?
any
The
complaints.
driveway, yeah.
Well, they've struggled to stay in business because they can't,
Yeah,
I'm
failing
just saying
business
it,
is
no
not a good
offense.
example.
Well, I'm gonna say that they closed it for you at dinner, but that's not your
No,
home.
well,
So, no, I can see why they can't be there, you know, but the traffic is gonna be, that's.
And 10 feet from our, pretty much from our
From
driveway,
yeah.
honestly. We're probably, what, 10 feet, well, a little, how far are we
so
from our
I
driveway?
suspect
From
that
there?
the reason that the DOT required that driveway near that location is because of the bend in the road there, so that there's visibility, you can kind of see it there.
Well, there's a drive there already. Why don't they just use that drive?
Well, then it gets into the stacking issue, right?
Yeah.
So do we have 12 cars? If there are
Cars
12
lane.
cars stacking, do you stack
that's
them
more
down
important than us
43rd?
getting out
Do
of our
they wait in
driveway safe.
43rd Street to
Is that what
turn
you're
left before they can get somewhere where they're in line?
So that's
And
more important than
that
us
is
getting out of our
unacceptable, and
drive?
I'm not gonna go through another Starbucks again, just so you know. 'Cause I don't. So the reason is that there's a lot of stacking, and the guys from Scooters, from what I recall, were not happy that we were requiring so much stacking. But the reason that we did that is because I have an older person there who has the Starbucks, and I
It's
have
actually-
an older person here who's across the street from the Starbucks.
I'm actually across the street from it. It's actually Andy.
Is it Andy?
It's Andy.
Then why do you always complain to me about
Because
it?
I'm the one who drives by it all
She
the
lives
time.
on Layton a little further down.
I
but the
don't go
point-
to it, but I drive by it.
So every time I get a picture, a screenshot of, do you see this, do you see this, do you see this? And it's like, yes, I saw it. I drove there and I saw it.
So we're just one resident that the stacking, I guess, takes priority over us.
Well, the
in
stacking
our-
takes priority because if the stacking wasn't there, people would be stopped in 43rd Street, creating a worse traffic situation than that would exist if all the cars were in this long stacking driveway.
Well, then why can't they open that on, like they do at Starbucks?
I think part
I
of the
mean,
reason
why
they
can't you
can't is
open up,
because,
why can't you leave that open?
because this would be a right turn right after that. So there would be a turn in there and then a turn there. Starbucks is after the right turn. It's after the intersection. I don't like it on Loomis because my fear was people turning in there when other people are in that lane to good on the on-ramp. I didn't like that idea, having it on Loomis because of that, but
Well,
I think it's because,
Choice.
yeah.
My understanding is that they had fought that and that said that wasn't supposed to be have an entrance off of Loomis either, that Starbucks, and they did it anyway. They did it anyway.
No, so what happened initially is
What I
they
understand.
only had one entrance, which was on Loomis. That was their only entrance. And they had an entrance off 43rd Street. When all that stuff happened over there, 43rd Street was vacated. So now when you turn right in between the power station and the Starbucks, that's not a street anymore.
No, it's
No,
not.
that's right.
That's
So
not.
that's what that is. So the vacation of 43rd Street happened afterward.
Hi, Jim Ninko, Ninko, 4411 South 43rd Street. Okay, on 43rd and Cold Spring, going south, there's a sign, no traffic in the parking lane.
I'm trying to vision it. Is that south of
Right,
40,
but, yeah, but,
south of Cold Spring on 43rd?
yes,
She can pull up a map, so.
just right past the stop sign, heading south. There's a sign there, just like all the other ones where the white line is painted and no traffic in the parking lane. Well, the parking lane is,
Which direction would we be facing?
any direction you're going.
There's one
There's the
right-
sign right there. What does it say?
No through traffic and curb lane.
Right.
Everybody uses that.
Everybody uses as a lane. And what's gonna happen at the coffee shop, when they come out of there, they're gonna go in that, parking lane, and people are gonna turn on the Loomis Road.
So as we're driving down 43rd Street,
Yeah.
driving down 43rd Street, everybody so
Every-
they're not,
When, at night, my house is right there, at night, you can't even get out of our driveway because they're in a parking lane. And they never come and paint the line, maybe every 3 years they come. They never put the white lines where it's, saying don't go in there, because it costs the city too much, they told us one time, so. Well,
so can you keep going? Okay. All right, now turn. Don't go too far. Now go towards the building, the other way, keep going. Now kind of go down to where so a little further, now turn right. Other way, that's left, I'm sorry. Right there. So,
so when they come out of that restaurant, the coffee shop, they're gonna stay in that right lane. Because other cars are gonna be turned left onto Loomis Road to proceed north too.
And not to mention the traffic that turns left on Botsford.
Right, and then you got Botsford too, so there's no, I don't think there's any way the city's gonna stop.
north from the middle of the street right now? North, that's the other way, other way, other way, other way, other way.
That's north.
That's, so,
That's,
up 43rd Street, so. Can you come back?
go fast like all the cars do too. You guys would be in financial ruin if you had to replace as many mailboxes as I have.
I get it.
Over the years. Oh,
On
my
late night
God.
lost many from the
They're in
plows.
that parking lane, they're hitting the mailboxes and taking out trees, yeah.
No, that was a nasty high-speed chase. They took out they took out the entire pole. They
Oh,
sheared
yeah,
the pole.
right, yes, yeah.
Does
I
everybody
think that
know
was the
about
only time my mailbox wasn't hit.
Do you know about that? Okay. So when it comes to like the fence, I'm talking, it's this lady more than anybody because it's her house, right?
Right.
Do you want a taller fence? Do you want like an 8-foot? I understand just,
There's gonna be green stuff in front of it too,
Landscaping,
Landscaping, vegetation, what was it?
The landscaping is on the east of the fence. It's on the scooter side.
Yeah, but what is it gonna,
It's a lot of shrubs, some decorative shrubs, evergreen shrubs.
it's not
Some
necessary.
Sound deadening kind of thing.
I'm sorry?
Sound
Yeah.
deadening.
So,
Shrubs and stuff along where that is on there.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about the lot line there. And you know what?
you want a big fence.
We set up higher than that property,
So an 8-foot fence would be beneficial.
I think so. I can see right out my, my dining room window there.
Okay.
And I can see the cars coming onto 43rd Street. I can see the expressway. I mean, we're that high when I'm inside our house, and I can see, we're higher, so.
But where that fence is, currently it's a 4-foot fence that you can see through. It doesn't provide any sound deadening. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't really probably shield the lights out. It might directly shield the lights, but at an angle, it doesn't shield the lights because it goes right through the slats. Would you prefer to have an 8-foot fence there? And where would you want it to go to?
How far to 43rd?
Do you want, it can't go to where that pole.
You can't go to, why couldn't you go to the pole if you're already to the pole?
Well, that's the whole point of trying to keep it lower there for line of sight. There's something called a vision triangle. Did you ever pull out of a restaurant and that monument sign's in your way and you can't see around it?
The driveway is,
They don't want to block it off like a curb by
So it would probably drop at that point to maybe 4 feet.
can we go to where it's at right now?
It's 4 feet. We probably, at 4 feet there, probably makes sense for the first, between the first and the second pole. It's probably at 4 feet and then it probably goes up.
So, where the second post is.
I think she needs time to think about this. I think we can,
I just
pass
wanna
it or
get
not pass it, and then she can meet with someone later, because I don't think she can decide right now. She might want something else, in a
I
few.
think it'd be a good idea for Devinder to speak with
This is
her.
also Andrew's district, is it not?
It's Andrews. So your alder person tonight is very deathly sick from what I'm not supposed, probably,
No, you're not supposed to.
He's not well.
he wanted to be here and he said, don't make a decision because
If there's an issue.
if there's
yeah.
an issue, basically. Because he wants to have it.
I can discuss it with my spouse also. He's in the hospital
Oh,
right
see.
now, and I'll see him tomorrow.
I mean, it
But she
probably
needs
makes
time
sense
to
to look at the
decide.
fence, right?
I'm thinking, looking at that, where you see the existing fence up there now, where that first section of it is, that probably would be like 4 feet, but then beyond that, have it be the 8 feet. Just
You're talking about like a 6-foot section.
whatever that
She
first
needs
section
to
of the
talk
fence
with
is
some
there.
group or something.
I'm not.
So this is just wasting time.
Yeah, making it like
The
4
public
and then
hearing.
tapering
So we
it up
can't,
to
we're in
the-
a public hearing and we can't kind of get involved in back and forth. No offense, Pam, right?
Oh, we're already there.
I'm not trying to, so I'm one that gets criticized for letting people talk at these sometimes, right? But from my perspective, it's better to listen to people talk and to try to work through it a little bit to the extent that we can. Sometimes staff will go, you're letting them, just let them say their piece and let's move on, which I think is probably what the next people are thinking for their next public hearing. But, so the fence is an important issue, the driveway approach, the location, and I'm not sure, so there was a traffic engineer involved in this, as I understand it, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And the DOT made certain restrictions with regard to proximity to Loomis. All of those things kind of need to be, right?
That's what I'm saying. It may just,
So-
that wouldn't be the best business for that spot. That's the whole point. I
Um,
understand that you
I'm-
guys are referencing the commercial standpoint of the stacking of the cars and all that, but nobody took into consideration, in talking to you guys, the impact on the houses right residential adjacent to it.
Yeah, we did, because that's why we wanted a 6-foot fence, and that's why we wanted to landscape, and that's why we put the businesses far away, so you don't hear the little microphone by the ordering thing and all of that.
Don asked.
No, we do. I mean, we tried,
No
and the
lights.
reason that we do that is because we don't want you coming back 6 months later and say, you didn't think about this and you didn't think about that. What we try to do is we try to alleviate every objection there possibly could be, sometimes, believe it or not, to a fault.
Bring in music or anything like that.
A what?
To even like bring in music or entertainment or something. There's gonna be an outside patio from what I understand.
Here, there's no outside
No.
patio.
No, they're not gonna have any seating.
There's no patio, there's no foot traffic, it's people going up to a thing saying, I'd like a large, whatever, coffee. Thank you, that'll be $4.30. Please pull forward. Within 2 or 3 minutes, they're supposed to have it ready, and then they leave.
It's really just a matter, I mean, if you look at where that driveway's located compared to where hers is, on that curve, you can't, it is almost absurd. You're not, you
All
have
right.
common sense.
Okay, so the driveway and the fence are the big ones, right? I mean, in fairness, is that a fair statement? I understand that some people think it should be, if it was a Denny's, trust me, that there would be a lot more people here that it would really be griping because it's 24 hours a day and it's all that stuff.
A lot more parking too, and a lot
A
less
lot more
trees
parking
being,
and a lot less,
lot less green space.
okay.
The people going to be driving on the right lane.
So that's another issue that we're going to be working with on 43rd Street and the engineering there, further north of Cold Spring, but we can also work on it here. We've also internally talked about having a cul-de-sac at the end of 43rd Street. Now so that's not an easy thing to, do.
They're not gonna be able to with that there anyway.
Well, that's why I was looking at the picture. If 43rd Street continued where it is, because there is a cul-de-sac on 43rd Street, right? And if part of it was abandoned or if part of it was cut up, but that's complicated. That's not one of those things we can just go into a meeting and say, yeah, let's get rid of that. We did that once.
One-way street too, it's, I don't know which
You
direction
can't do a
to make
one-way
that.
street either, so. We look, so, but we understand, and I understand the gentleman's concern behind you with regard to the, right. So it used to be, 19 and a half years ago, it used to be that there were just 4 lanes, right, and the city didn't do anything. It was, because we got a grant for like $62,000 once to put those white lines and traffic signs up, so people weren't supposed to go in those traffic lanes, and we created an ordinance so we can actually write tickets for people that do. In the old days, they said, oh, it's just another lane, just so you know. So if you make a lot of, I mean, we don't have enough officers to do everything that everyone expects sometimes, but we try really hard to allocate those resources appropriately. I can assure you that they're writing a lot of tickets every day throughout the city. And they're legitimate tickets. They're not like the old speed trap on 43rd and Barnard. So just saying. All right. Not that there was a speed trap. And if there was, I wasn't elected then.
Did you sign up, sir?
I did.
You got the brown sheet there?
They put it in a box.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right place to put it,
That's,
but,
for you, it's perfect.
okay. Peter Gallagher, 4980 South 43rd Street. I'll be quick. Just want to express my dismay at losing a wonderful family-owned gathering place for the neighborhood to a corporate drive-through coffee shop. Not happy about it. But I understand you're going to get more taxes from this. 2 other comments. The new traffic pattern at 43rd and Layton is wonderful. The dual entrance to the Starbucks drive-through is a complete fiasco. This looks like a much better plan. That's all I got.
Just to comment on the thing at 43rd Street, we're still working with We Energies and the owner of the Starbucks that leases it to Starbucks to try to convert the old 43rd Street into something that doesn't resemble an old cutoff street that just goes into the place. And We Energies and Starbucks are, and I won't say too much, but it's a challenge.
Does anyone else want to speak?
Does anybody else want to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this item? Okay, so I have 4 people registered to speak, or that's Peter Gallagher, Jim Ninko.
Yes.
Stanley Painter, and Clarice Kish. Is that right? Okay. Those are the people that I have registered for this public hearing. Does that sound right? Anybody else want to register? Please turn in your thing if you, okay. Does anybody else want to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this item? I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Castner, all in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is
There are no
closed.
phone numbers on those for the developer to make contact to figure out how to,
What might be, so there are addresses and the developer
could send a letter?
We're probably, so the folks that are doing this, we're gonna encourage them to reach out to you. I don't think that we're gonna take any action tonight. Your alderperson, Andrew, asked that if there was any concerns about anything, that the action be delayed until the next common council meeting to make sure that things were taken care of. That's what he wanted.
And what's the date of the next one so they know?
2 weeks?
Yeah,
2 weeks
but
from today, so what is today? What is today?
Today is my daughter's birthday. It's the 20th.
Jeez, it's your daughter's
The
birthday.
5th of March,
March 5th, and there's no election then, right?
not March. That would be
Right.
April.
Okay, so does the council wish to take any action with regard to the resolution of the site landscaping plan?
No.
Place it
Yes,
on next agenda?
Placed on the next agenda. So on March 5th, there will be another meeting here, much like this one. Hopefully, not, right? Things a little bit more worked out and a little more cohesive, and they'll discuss it then. Your alderperson is under the weather. I would, and if he's not feeling good or something, I'm not sure that a decision will be made until he can actively participate. Does that sound fair? Okay.
Do they want to leave their phone numbers? Or no?
The addresses are probably good. I'm not sure that they should be contacted like that. They should sort of be officially contacted,
That works.
right?
That's-
That's kind of how we do it. We don't usually give out people's phone numbers, so.
Well, definitely don't do it on TV.
We don't do it on TV.
I'm saying they can
I
write
know,
it
I
down.
know, I know, I agree
Yeah,
with you.
so if you have any and I'm just letting you know that everything that we said here tonight is on YouTube, and it'll probably be downloaded tomorrow or the next day, and you can watch the whole public meeting, and you can,
Yeah, it's on their website. That's on your website, right, or is that YouTube?
It hasn't been working for quite some time. It's on the website under agendas and
when?
minutes.
Why is it not working?
You'll have to speak to IT about that.
Somebody needs to tell me that.
Sorry, I assume they knew, they told
It's
you.
on the website.
It's on the city website under agendas and minutes.
It is under city website.
Oh, yeah, the video's out there. It's just, there's problems with the
That's even
YouTube
easier.
channel.
It's better.
So if you go to our website, you look under meetings and agendas, there are minutes and agendas, and there's a point where the YouTube video is or a video is uploaded. Okay. YouTube has been a challenge because if they hear like sounds of Christmas music or something live, they shut us down. And
Well, quit playing that music.
it's AI. AI is going to kill us all, I'm telling you.
I thought it was your phone mouse.
No, we were doing we're not in a public hearing anymore. We were doing a Facebook Live thing or a YouTube Live thing for
your
our
phone
Christmas
went off?
tree lighting ceremony, and in the background was like White Christmas or some music playing. And while we were going through it, they killed it because we were violating the license or something. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much. All right, item 2. Public hearing on a special use permit for Stasis Health and Wellness, proposed massage therapy business located at the Suites of Loomis at 4958. This is in Suite 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is an applicant who is occupying 120 square feet of tenant space within the existing building on the corner of Edgerton and Loomis. The massage therapist requires a special use permit and a public hearing. Hours of operation would be 8 to 8 daily. They would be under a 1-year lease, and the whole building, there's multiple tenants in this building, requires 42 spaces, and 42 are provided. Plan Commission recommended approval at its January 9th meeting, and we've received no letters of objection or support to date.
You're the applicant? Okay, you don't have to say anything. Is anyone here to speak? The applicant is present. Is anyone that would like to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this item? The applicant is present, willing to speak in favor of the project, which is occupying a suite in the building. No one is registered. I'd entertain a motion to close the public
hearing.
Motion by Alderperson Castner to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. With regard to approving the resolution for the special use permit as well as the site plan review, does the council wish to take any action?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the resolution and the site plan review by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Unless you don't want it. So that was an issue. So that's how some of those go, right? Sorry. Item 3, public hearing on an ordinance, right?
Motion carried unanimously.
Motion carried unanimously.
Yes.
Okay, item 3, public hearing on an ordinance to amend section 2106-0103 of the municipal code pertaining to stormwater management plan requirements. This came from the planning commission, I think. An ordinance to, I'd entertain an ordinance. Or is this oh, it is a public hearing, I'm sorry. I thought it was something else. Did you want to go with this one?
Sure, yep, sure. So the existing language, there's verbiage about storm sewers and who pays for those pipes in our zoning code, which requires a public hearing for any modification. The current language says that developer assumes the cost of installation up to 48 inches. So anything lower than 48 inches in size, the developer pays for. But the costs of larger storm sewers over 48 inches, it states right now, the cost shall be borne by either the city or assessed against the total tributary drainage area. So this is a formality. Let's clean that up and officially require, while we practice it, it's not in the code that the developer shall assume the cost of installing all of those storm sewer pipes. Planning Commission recommended approval at its meeting last week. We've received no letters of support or objection to date.
This is a smart move. Is there anybody registered to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this ordinance change? Is there anyone here to register to speak in favor, against, or for informational purposes concerning this ordinance change? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to approve the ordinance to amend section 2106-0103 of the municipal code pertaining to stormwater management plan requirements,
So in other words, they're going to pay for it, not us, right?
generally.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Motion by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Item K1 is old business. I don't have any appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, I don't think.
No.
Okay. Next one, and these items are sort of taken separately, I guess, right? Item K2 is approve a resolution for a special use permit for a proposed liquor store at Nexus Vape and Smoke, an existing business at 3765 South 108th Street, submitted by Yash Patel. There was a public hearing on this matter on December 5th, 2023. Part and parcel to this is item 3 and 4. One relates to the site plan review, and the fourth relates to the liquor license, which is a uniquely distinct decision. Okay, so I've been trying to figure out what to do here in fairness. There was some confusion at the public hearing with regard to if it's new rules with the conditional use, special uses, all of those things. I've been in contact with our city attorney with regard to this issue, okay? First and foremost, I wanted to know that if you didn't show up tonight, because I learned from staff that you may not have been contacted, we wanted to make sure you were here. If you hadn't shown up, I wanted to make sure that we would have postponed any decisions that we were making, because it's important that you're here, okay? Just to be totally clear about that. So the city attorney has provided me with this legal advice. And before I provide this legal advice, I want to kind of explain, sort of by analogy, what it's all about. Range USA is a special use. Range USA is a gun shop. Your business is a special use. You're a tobacco shop. There are other special uses that are allowed within the city, right? And we go through a public hearing process. This is the first situation that we've come into where there's two special uses as a combined use. Because when I went through all the application materials, we want to be a liquor store and we want to be a tobacco shop. We want to be two different things. Somehow, I didn't understand what to do in that situation. There have been some recent legislative changes with regard to all of this. The city attorney tells me that the zoning code, and you're represented by counsel here this evening, so, and I can provide you with copious notes, or I can provide you with what I'm citing. Ordinance 21.03.0210 states that a use is expressly prohibited unless a written decision of the planning commission, it is determined that said use is similar to and not a more measurably intense use than a use specifically listed for a district. Our zoning code is unique. It uses the NASIX code, and it literally lists hundreds, I think maybe thousands, but hundreds of uses. It attempts to define every single use there is in the city. And every use that is provided is either not permitted, permitted, or a special use. If it's silent, it's not permitted. In this situation, a proposed smoke shop and liquor store is not listed as a use. It's listed as a use as a smoke shop, I think, or tobacco use, or I'm not sure exactly what the nomenclature is, or a liquor store. Nowhere in our provision is it permitted that both uses can be combined into one. And at first, I thought, well, that makes sense if another special use, like a gun store, and we went through this at the public hearing, I think, Mr. Randall and I. We went through this at the public hearing a little bit. The legislative changes that were enacted were designed to make conditional uses and to allow uses to happen so long as certain requirements are met and they're consistent with the zoning code. In this situation, when we define special uses individually, like a smoke shop, or a gun shop, or a liquor store, or a massage parlor, or whatever it is, there's certain thoughts that go into that decision making. Nowhere is there the provision that special uses are combined. And that kind of makes sense in some ways, according to our zoning code. So when it comes to this, the city, and Chrissy, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you were on the phone a little bit today with them as well, just trying to figure out what this is all about and what we're supposed to do. You're responsible for our zoning. Because our zoning code is silent with regard to a combined special use to be a tobacco store and a liquor store, it's not permitted.
That's the, that is what the city attorney stated, yes, correct.
Because it's not permitted, no action can be is required. Is that right? Or the action is to deny because zoning doesn't allow. Is that right?
Sounds cleaner that way, but
Well, so there's, and it's pretty clear that when Attorney Randall was here the last time and we engaged in a lot of discussion back and forth, it's all pretty complicated. But in essence, the common sense that hits you, so for instance, Mr. Randall's argument before was that, well, hypothetically, I have a gun shop and it's a special use. And as long as I do everything that I need to in this situation, like he did, right? and I want to apply for a special use for a liquor store at the same location, I can. At the licensing side, you could say, well, we don't think licenses should go there, but from a zoning standpoint, nothing prevents that, I think. So the advice of counsel and his interpretation of the zoning code, and our counsel wasn't here at the last, during the public hearing, which is, I don't think he was he?
They were not, but they listened thoroughly to and watched the entire recording.
Okay.
Yep.
So the appropriate action is either to not take action or to deny the resolution for a special use permit as presented, for the reasons provided. It's up to you guys.
Does she want to say something?
I mean, before a motion, if you want.
I'd be happy to speak briefly, because I know you've had a long evening. I'm Attorney Brian Randall, Amundsen Davis, 111 East Kilbourne Avenue, here on behalf of the special use applicant and license applicant. Not having the benefit of either reading what the city attorney has written or conferring, and I would have been willing to talk myself if that was an opportunity. Not having heard this advice until just now, my preference would be that you not take action or even table it and hold it for a future meeting. I would be concerned on, without the benefit of your counsel here, I'd be concerned on your behalf of denying it based on what I'm hearing. For example, if you remember on December 5th when we were here
So
last.
I just want to be clear that I can't, go ahead.
This isn't a public hearing, is it?
It's not a public hearing, I'm giving him the.
Thank you.
Because.
You're giving him a,
I'm making a record. I mean, if it's denied, the remedy on a special use under Act 67, your legal counsel would tell you is to go to circuit court. And we're here to try and work through these issues, but if we have to litigate, we'll litigate. That's not what I'm here to present. What I'm suggesting to you is that your zoning code is unique, and I think it's an unusual interpretation if what I'm hearing you say is the city can only approve code by code a particular use. And for example, I'll give you last time when I was here, December 5th, you asked the Tiny Tykes puppies, the dog, the puppy pet store, if they would have.
So we're not going to litigate.
If they would have toys, but.
So the record is pretty clear with regard to what we've done and what we haven't done and all of those things. And as I've indicated previously, everything that we do, I think is, if it's working well, is available on YouTube to thoroughly scour with regard to the decision-making.
So
Our
the
zoning
point is
code
making
is in
that
the
there are
record
grocery
too.
stores with these multiple uses, or there's the Tiny Tykes that had puppy sales plus toys, and those are all separate codes. And what I'm hearing you say is that you couldn't.
I understand that you're trying to make a
those.
record as if we're litigating the issue here. I do understand that. But the advice that we received from the city attorney, I mean, arguably I didn't have to invite you to the podium.
Arguably.
Right? Right?
So I'll listen. Thank you.
Right. Is that fair?
that is
So-
very fair, nor be threatened, but.
It's not, so this is the thing, I mean, I'm not here as a mayor of the city, I don't want people to sue me, I don't want people to do this, I want people to be happy, I want to make sure that the noise next to the drive-through I want to make sure all of that stuff is happening, is right to the extent that I can make it reasonable and fair and all of those things. Truthfully. With the goal of making the city a better place. And that's my only goal. That's it. I wouldn't do this for any other reason, truthfully. I got to thinking a little bit about those arguments that you had, and I understand where you're coming from, right? But special uses combined with other special uses creates a different situation entirely. The hours of operation for your business are different. One's 9 to 9, you ask for 8 to 9 to accommodate the liquor store. There's this idea that you're going to transition into liquor. There's all of these things. Those are all very direct, unique special uses, right? So, I mean, that's just, and I'm not, so. That was the advice of our city attorney.
Okay, so we have to decide now what we're doing.
Okay, is there a motion?
I will make the motion on the advice of the city attorney to deny the special use.
Either deny or, that was the advice of the city.
Well, I
To-
picked one.
Yeah, okay, now I understand what you're saying, but he said we could do either.
I was here. I listened.
Yeah.
Is there a second? I don't know if there's any, this is a thing I don't know, and I wish our city attorney couldn't be here this evening because of a family commitment. I don't know if the denial of a special use or the failure to act within a special use with regard in a certain period of time automatically defaults to the special use being granted. I don't know if I don't know the answers to these questions. I don't know if the failure to grant a license after so many days after it's been asked for results in the license being granted. I don't know those things. Only the city attorney knows those things. I do know that if this common council makes a decision to deny things, that at the following common council meeting, they can make a decision to reconsider before the minutes are approved.
Okay, then
I'll second
Right?
the
Even
motion.
after.
I'll second the motion.
Okay? That's all I know.
Okay.
So the motion was made by Kastner, second by Akers, to deny the special use. Would you please call?
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Zarian,
Aye.
Motion carries. With regard to the special use in the site plan review, the site plan review was tied to the special use. So I'm not sure that any action is necessary at this point. Does Attorney Randall think that we should deny the site plan review? I don't know. Do you think we should? Yeah.
Oh, I actually think the
So
owner
the
of
reality-
property should actually act on that because there's nothing more than maintenance.
So the reality is, the site plan review, the reality is they did when they came in for their last special use, it's essentially the same except for time. I think the hours of operation have changed under the resolution, but I don't think that has any impact on the site plan review. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the site plan review, because the site plan review is a site plan review of what you were required to do with regard to the initial special use.
I agree.
But under discussion, I drove there today just to see, because I remember at the last public hearing, there were certain conditions with the special use with regard to the site, which related to window signage, that I think was brought up at the public hearing, saying you got all the stuff all over the windows, and you had the LED lights at one point, those have been taken down. And the sign code restricts window signage to 20 or 25%. And when I drove by today, it's way over that. And I haven't measured it all, and I haven't done all that. So when it comes to the site plan review, the window signage clearly has to be in congruence with what you agreed to under the last special use, and there's a resolution in place with regard to that. So with regard, I'd entertain a
I will
motion
make a
for the
motion
site
to-
plan review, although the site plan review was necessary as a result of the resolution review that we just denied. The site plan review isn't being approved in furtherance of the special use that's being requested and has now been denied. But it is being discussed and
reaffirming.
approved that you had a special use review where the review of the initial special use is in violation, and that needs to be corrected.
Well, can I just say, if it's already been approved and The first one was approved and it's not being followed. I don't understand why we have to do a second one. Shouldn't we just enforce the first one?
Because it's agended, and I'm not sure if it means anything legally or not, but the reality is a special use review was invoked because of the request for the special use change to put a liquor store in. And while we're reviewing the initial special use for the for the tobacco shop, it's not being followed. So as part of that review, which I think is still probably actionable somehow in this way, basically I'm just asking that they follow the special use that we've already approved. So.
I'll make that motion to approve the special use.
So you make a motion to approve the site plan review.
Oh, yes, site plan, sorry.
That was initiated as a result of the proposed liquor store at the Nexus Vape and Smoke Shop located at 3765 South 108th Street, which was part and parcel looking at a special use review for the existing business that they wanted to have 2 special uses in.
Correct. We're reaffirming the original,
Reaffirming the existing special use.
the original landscape review.
Site.
Landscape.
Right, which was ultimately reduced in the form of the original special use resolution.
In theory, this should never even have to happen if it was being followed.
Okay, so that would be the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers. So this, just call it.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Okay, the next one. So in the law, there's a distinction between zoning and a license. And Mr. Randall, you can go to the microphone and correct me if I'm wrong about some of this stuff. But there's a distinction in the considerations made for both. Just give me a second. So this is some of the advice, and I'm not violating any of the attorney-client privilege that I may have with our counsel, but I will discuss part of what was said to me when he described what an alcohol license is about, okay? Case law makes clear that no one is entitled to an alcohol license. Rather, the issuance of alcohol licenses is within the sound discretion of the governing body, so long as the basis for the decision is not arbitrary, capricious, discriminatory, or anti-competitive. Therefore, to the extent that the Common Council has serious concerns about the impacts of the location of the proposed licensed premises, either in terms of its geographic location or its location with an existing and apparently pretty small and pretty tight retail footprint, or concerns about traffic or neighborhood impact of the proposed liquor store, or other objective reasonable considerations, and an application denial on those grounds really ought to be upheld by a reviewing court. That's, I think, a fair statement. He probably lifted that from some case law somewhere, or from the statutory language, or from the legislative history itself. This is sort of a policy decision whether or not, so long as the decision isn't arbitrary and capricious, whether an alcohol license should be granted to a vape shop.
Given the size, according to that, of the vape shop and its existing condition, it would make sense to deny it?
So when we,
It didn't look like there's a ton of space in there.
So during the last public hearing, there was a lot of discussion back and forth about the size of the location, the ability to potentially get some of Best Carpet next door to expand, the potential for other unoccupied space, potentially in the strip mall, if it still exists, to potentially move a liquor store there, or the vape shop and liquor store there, because I think it was pretty clear they're not giving up one. They want both special uses, and they want to operate as a combined tobacco and liquor store establishment. The current space is 1,100 square feet at the end of a strip mall. The business itself is pretty much packed, at this point at least, with tobacco merchandise. The only, and I'm trying to, I'm looking at the plan that was, I think, that you provided. This is essentially the only plan, I think, that was provided with regard to, and I can provide this and give it to you. This is the only plan that was provided.
Like came from Jennifer. That was the handout that was
This is
provided
the
on
handout?
December 5th.
This is the hand,
That's the handout that
They provided.
Attorney Marshall had provided.
Right.
Yes, correct. On December 5th.
so the question is, would the council consider granting an alcohol license in a property that's not zoned? And we'll talk about circuit court and all that other stuff later, right? Does the common council, in its sound discretion, want to provide an alcohol license to a tobacco shop? Is that the question?
That may be the question you have for your council.
I guess that's the question, right?
I will be brief because I know what your decisions have been thus far. Simply that this license application was filed July 25th, 2023. It is in a complete form. All required pieces of information are on file. And the Chapter 13.01 and the rest of your Chapter 13 on licenses and permits, it meets all of the license qualifications. Your city attorney did accurately describe certain criteria that you could consider, things like geographic concentration or the impacts to neighbors.
Or whether, or can I just interrupt you and ask you this question? Or whether the common council wants to grant alcohol licenses to certain special uses. At the last public hearing, you said something that sort of struck out at me. It's like, yeah, we're a tobacco shop and it's a special use, but we want to be a liquor store too, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it got me thinking just from a common sense sort of standpoint, and trying to use some of this language that's in this, that I just recited. It's not arbitrary, it's not capricious, it's not, but it's just kind of this common sense thing. So if Range USA, a gun shop, some gun shop, came into the city that was in the city, not especially used to be a gun shop, and they complied with all of the stuff, just like you have, and they had that special use, and there was another liquor store within 10 miles of it, and everything was great, right? Is there a requirement then to grant a license to the gun shop? I mean, your argument kind of is, yeah. And I'm not sure that that's what the council has. I think that's where the discretion of the council comes in. I think that's when the discretion of the council comes in. And with some history, there was a tobacco shop on 27th and College. One of the first things I vetoed way back when. Remember that? You might want to look it up, right? It was a smoke shop, and they wanted to do things in there. Remember that smoke shop?
Yeah, I do.
And I vetoed that because it was like, that doesn't make sense to me. In this situation, it doesn't, and it's just me, and they make the decision, and I'm not here, honest to God, right? They passed they don't want vape shops anymore or something, and that's up to them, right? But it's a decision of the council of whether to grant an alcohol license to tobacco stores. Should tobacco stores be entitled to sell liquor like a liquor store? I think that's the question that they have. And a long time ago in this city, there was this situation where beer was never sold in any gas station, ever. And our city attorney back then, Roger Pizak, it was probably 27 years, I don't know what it was, 26 years ago, said, you know, if you give this ability to this one gas station to sell beer, you're going to have to give that right or that privilege or exercise your future discretion with every gas station that comes in that wants to sell beer. That's what he said. And the Common Council at the time said, yeah, we want that gas station, I think it was on Highway 100 in Layton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was. I voted no.
Well, so, but the point was, and they granted it. And then almost every single gas station within the community came forward and said, we want to sell beer. And there were some alderpersons, I think you were one of them, that said, I'm against it, but there's not much I can do about it. Because potentially the door is already open. So in some ways, the decision with regard to granting the license, and Mr. Randall is probably very correct that the appropriate course of action for the zoning stuff and all that stuff is circuit court, and if it's not at the circuit court, then it goes to the Court of Appeals, and then if that's not good, then it goes to the Supreme Court, right? And I mean, the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
I mean, I was going to say,
understand. I totally get it.
I think you're.
But the point is, from my perspective, for you guys to make the decision, and it's a policy decision, a reasonable policy decision that's consistent with some of those fancy words. What are those? Pronouns? What are those? Arbitrary, capricious. What are those? Pronouns, verbs, adjectives?
Adjective or adverb.
It's up for, sorry, the guy in the back. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. I appreciate your. I just met him, by the way. Those adjectives is the decision you're making, right? I think. And maybe Mr. Randall thinks I'm wrong.
Again, I wanted to be brief. So first thing I'll just point out is I think, Mayor, you were actually right that maybe action on this item would not be appropriate since the zoning was just denied by the council. So it might be further proceedings are the most appropriate. However, to conclude my other remarks, the application before you meets with all of the requirements in your ordinances. And so then the city attorney's advice is spot on, and the word I'll focus on is arbitrary. And Mayor, it does not say common sense in those legal standards. What I think you're getting at is directly in the violation of arbitrary. That if the council starts to say, we don't need another liquor store, or we don't think we want to have vape and liquor stores combined, without a basis, and there was no evidence at the special use hearing, mind you, as far as any negatives for this particular proposal, without a basis for that, that is the definition of arbitrary. So for those reasons, I would suggest to you that the license ought to be held, and again, I appreciate speaking on this. This was not on the December 5th agenda, and I wasn't citizen comment, so there was no other approach, but I did want to speak to the application before you, filed back in July.